Hey guys, it's your friend No Name Trapper coming with you. Another episode of Real Talk today. Today's episode, the subject is 2 coil versus 4 coil foothold traps. Okay, this is one of the top subjects I believe when it comes to helping prevent foot damage. So let's just get into a few main points right out of the get-go. First off, as trappers, we're not out there to hurt these animals. So if we can prevent foot damage and find more humane ways, we're always doing that. We're working hard. We want to be out there managing the populations and using the resources the animals provide. We do not enjoy just going out there and harming animals. Okay, that's not why we do it. So just get that out of the way right out of the get-go. So second point I want to make is per brand of trap, they may have different vendors for their coil springs. Okay, so you can have two similar size traps and you can fire them off. They could both be 2 coiled and they may not fire off the same speed and power. Okay, that's just because they have different vendors. So you need to keep that in mind, but you also need to keep that in mind when you're purchasing coil springs to add. Like if you have a 2 coil trap and you want to add 2 coils to it, you want to make sure you're factoring in the power of the coil springs you're purchasing to add to it. Another thing you want to keep in mind is the weight of the trap. Some traps are thicker steel and some are lighter steel. Okay, you need to factor that in when making your decision on 2 coil versus 4 coil. If you have a very heavy trap, just a quick scenario, a very heavy trap, a lot of times you're going to want a 4 coil just so it fires up with a good speed and the right amount of power. Okay, so that's something you want to factor in as well, the weight of the trap. Okay, so we knocked out a few points right out of the gate, and that's what I want to do. So, with that being said, what we're going to do here is we're going to get into the mechanics of the trap real quick, and then we're going to talk about the pros and cons, and I'm going to give you a couple scenarios. Okay, so this right here is a 2 coil trap. Okay, if it was 4, it would have 2 more over here. Okay, these coil springs are the power of the trap. It's what fires the trap up to close the jaws. Okay, so your basic mechanics on the trap are this: your pan. All right, animal steps on that, the dog flips off. The levers shoot up on each side, which close the jaws this way. Okay, the coil springs are what control all that, and it's the power behind that. Alright, so that is your basic trap mechanics on your standard foothold trap. Okay, so with that being said, this is a 2 coil trap, and so we're going to talk about some pros and cons to it. So first off, the trap does not fire evenly. Okay, so with the trap not firing evenly, it's because your power is all directed on one side. Okay, so when the power comes from one side, the weight of the trap and the power causes it not to fire up and close directly center. Okay, so that actually would be considered a con, in my opinion. I like for my trap to fire up evenly and close dead center. Okay, so 2 coil trap, you get less power. Okay, less power a lot of times equals less foot damage, but it's based, there's a lot of other factors, so just figure 2 coil for the most part equals less foot damage, but there are other factors involved in that. Okay, so that's a pro though. That's a pro. Less foot damage is what we're going for. Now, with that being said, 2 coil, you've got less speed shooting up, you've got less power, you've got less holding power. So once you catch that animal, if it gives a good fight, jumping, rolling around, you have less power to hold that animal in place. So that's another con. So it's got, we've got a couple cons. We've got a pro that it could cause less foot damage. Now with that being said, 2 coil, I run a lot of 2 coil traps, and in the right scenarios, they are fantastic. Okay, they are fantastic. So don't think just because we mentioned a couple cons that they're not a good system. They are a very good system in the right system. Okay, so 2 coil, we got them covered. One more con on those is breaking ground, and I'm talking about when your trap's under the ground level Specifically, you see it a lot with dirt holes. If you have a 2 coil trap and the ground refreezes, even if you freeze proof a lot of times, the ground will have a crust on it that forms and it refreezes. A 2 coil has less power to bust through and close. It has less power and it has less speed. Okay, so those are things to keep in mind. When you have less power and less speed, it's hard to break through that ground and close the way you might want it to. Okay, so just that's actually another con for that. Sorry, I almost forgot that one. Alright, so 4 coil. Let's go with pros and cons to a 4 coil trap, and I'll go ahead and show you a 4 coil trap. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4. And a lot of times the coils will be smaller on one side than the main coils, okay? That's okay. It still shoots up and it fires evenly for the most part, pretty evenly. So that's very important. That's a pro. You always want to, as much as possible with mechanics on a lot of things, center is better. You get more holding power. Okay, so you get a faster time shooting up. You get more holding power. Those are very important pros. Now, with that being said, and this is an always kind of deal. This is just in general statement. You can have more foot damage. Now, to offset foot damage, though, we'll go back to the basics a little. You can go with thicker jaws. A lot of traps come with thicker jaws now, but if not, you can laminate them to make them thicker. You can inside laminate them. You can double jaw them, and then there's also rubber jaws. So I mean, there's several scenarios to offset the power of the 4 coil. So it doesn't always mean, even if you don't run those, that you'll have more foot damage, because I've had a lot of 4 coil catches without those, that with no foot damage at all. Okay, so anyways, though, it does increase the chance of some foot damage, so that's something you need to be aware of and factor those other things in to play. Now, breaking dirt. A 4 coil trap busts through that crusty layer of dirt a lot faster and just a lot better in general. I mean, it fires up center, it's got more power to bust that crust, and then it closes faster. So that's another pro of 4 coiling. So we've got some pros, we've got a con of possible more foot damage. These are some things you really want to get into play. I would like to thank my friend Dale Billingsley. I had several discussions with a couple guys because I wanted to give you an informed decision. I'd like to thank Dale for really discussing how these traps don't fire as evenly with the 2 coil versus 4 coil, because the power is loaded on one side, plus the weight of the trap's offset a little bit. So I'd like to thank my friend Dale, because we've had multiple discussions about that. Dale Billingsley. And then I would like to give a scenario for Tommy Bryant, and I reached out to him to give you guys an informed decision on this. I wanted to give you different scenarios and good advice, right? So Tommy Bryant, for all of you that don't know, he runs, and I don't have one here, but a 1.5 Victor rubber jaw. And so I was talking with him. He runs a 4 coil, so you get the power, you get all the pros of 4 coil, but then the rubber jaw offsets the foot damage, which is very important for what he does. And he catches a lot of animals, a lot of critters, guys. And so he 4 coils Victors and the rubber jaws, and a lot of the times he does it too, I think, because he's busting through soil, whether it be frozen or not. That 4 coil helps break through the soil. So I appreciate him describing his system. He believes that it gives you a faster, better set on the foot, which will give you more catches. And honestly, I think he's got a good point, speaking with him about that. And I appreciate him letting us share that today, because that's very important for you guys to come to your decision on 2 coil versus 4 coil, plus maybe what you might do to the jaws to help prevent foot damage. Okay, so I want to give you another scenario, and this scenario comes directly from a friend of mine. He was a new trapper, okay, and he had standard jaw 1.5s, He was wanting to run them here in the ditches of Iowa. Fantastic. He was thinking about 4-coiling them. Now, there's some things that go into play here. Okay, your standard jaw, it's already, if you 4-coil a standard jaw 1.5, you're basically amping it up. Okay, and a 1.5 is not a very deep trap, so a lot of times you'd be catching like, about fingertip, or fingers about here and stuff on raccoons and so forth. So 4-coiling it, you've added power, you've got that standard narrow jaw. First off, that, in my opinion, for that scenario is not a good idea. Then you factor in, a lot of our ditches here are like a U or a V where they're straight up. Bottom line is you're fighting some elevation changes. Okay, so the elevation changes give leverage to the animal. So if you've already hammered them with a smaller jaw and 4-coil, and then you're giving them leverage, you're asking for problems. Then you got to factor in, is there moisture? A lot of times these are ditches. There's moisture a lot of times. So for his scenario, I did not recommend 4-coiling a standard 1.5 jaw. Now, with that being said, you can make a simple change, and I would highly say it's a good system and recommend it. You could have the double jaw. You could have the laminated jaws. You could have a thicker jawed trap. You could have a higher catching trap with a deeper, a deeper area, and maybe 4-coils better. But as far as that scenario, 4-coiling a 1.5 standard jaw was not a good idea. I recommend not doing that. I recommended that to him. And that's another scenario I want to present to you guys, because I want to give you all the facts and all the information to think about. So guys, a lot of information, long video, a lot of me talking. I hope that you took away some information that can help you on your trap line and with your system, and developing the best system for the least foot damage and the most catches for your trap line. Okay guys, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up please, so I kind of know, if I keep going forward with this. It helps me out, and I appreciate you guys watching each and every time. So thank you. I hope this helps you on your trap line. Tight chains out there.